Welcome to Seriously Uncork Yourself. I am your host, Lynn Kuhn, and this is a podcast that brings to you a firsthand look at what it seriously means to meet people where they are in their life. Enjoy the experience from illusions to reality. Find out what it is to restore to high performance, renew your freedoms, and rejuvenate playfulness. I can't wait to share with you my experience and the experiences of many others in hopes that you feel inspired to renew yourself and live your best life. Thanks for listening. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone. Today, I am so thrilled to have Dr. Lou Corleto as my special guest. Lou is a speaker, high-performance coach, author, and facilitator. He has been actively studying the human body and the healing principles over 30 years. Lou facilitates retreats around the world on healing possibilities, consciousness, vitalistic philosophy, and high performance. He has served on all 7 continents and over 45 countries. He combines ancient wisdom of the ages with the most cutting-edge science. How cool is that? I'm so excited to welcome Lou. Hi, Lou. How are you?
I'm great, Lynn. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So would you do me the honors of telling me just a little bit more about yourself? And also, what was your journey that you took to get here?
Yeah, so how did I get here? Well, so I grew up, I'm one of 9 kids. And I grew up deeply rooted in the traditional medical model, the allopathic model. My mom's a director of nurses. My dad was an engineer. 2 of my sisters work in major metropolitan hospitals. But from the very beginning, I just had a different viewpoint of life, period, around how my body worked, around how health and healing was. And it was in conflict to what I was growing up with. And so that led me onto a completely different path. I was a high-level athlete growing up, both in high school and college, and was nominated to Sports Hall of Fame, that kind of thing. But I was very hard on myself, both in and out of academia. And so I've broken myself quite a bit. And so in that process, I was also doing things differently, which opened up my journey to discover. So, you know, the Joseph Campbell's The Journey of the Wounded Healer, not knowing it, but that became my path. Was to keep learning about how this thing works. How does the body work? And in doing so, I realized there's another thing that runs this body, and that thing is me, right? Or you, that force, whatever you want to call that, your spirit, your innate intelligence. But there's an animating force. So then I started studying that, the depth of spirit and consciousness, which then kept opening me up to all of these things. Hence the traveling the world to learn from the greatest minds in neuroscience. And so I've worked with Tibetan monks in Tibet and shamans in South America and brilliant people in the Western hemispheres and everywhere, just because I'm an avid learner still to this day. I'm a student of life, and I know that I don't know. But what I do know and what I have discovered, I love sharing to inspire other people so they can take their life to the next level.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. You share. From the first time I met you, you were just so gracious and sharing. And, you know, when I was the newbie out there on the block, and you didn't even flinch. You just went and you just helped and did everything. So I can definitely testify to that. Okay, so with that said, what do you feel that with a new entrepreneur coming into the field, and it can be any field, it doesn't necessarily have to be just, you know, one thing or the other, what would you suggest to them to help them simplify and to stay balanced while they're starting their new adventure?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So looking back from this point backwards is to really, I mean, I can give a lot of different viewpoints that spoke on that process. Really trust what's moving in your heart. Because we all have fear that shows up, and it's fear that prevents us from expressing our greatness, period. I've got a PhD in it, right? But that's also what I do, as I help facilitate people getting on the other side of that. We're all going to bump into fear always. The 2 questions are going to happen is, Once you bump into it, do you stay on this side of it and stay paralyzed and then not do your work? Or will you have the courage to walk through it? And that's what's critical, is just keep remembering that on the other side of fear is always you at a higher level. So surround yourself with people who support you in your mission and vision, and don't give up on your dreams. That's the conceptual part. When I'm looking back at my life, like, if I knew then some of the things that I knew now, how would that have changed my learning curve? How would it have reduced the pain and trauma that I created? You know, the extended learning curve that some people call failure, right? Remember that there's no way to fail until you quit.
Right.
So otherwise, we're just learning. It's always learning. There is no failure until you quit, right? So for me, I thought I would go a little bit, which is what's part of my nature and character, is different than the herd.
Right.
Which was talking about the power of breath to change your life. Like, what would that have to do with entrepreneurship? Well, first and foremost, whatever you're up to, you can only express that to the degree that you yourself can show up, right? So if we're clogged up in the mind with stressors, well, we can't express that gift because of worries and doubts, and we're stuck on this side of fear. If our body and our physicality or our physiology is lack of vitality, you won't have the energy to run your mission, right? So first and foremost, who we are supersedes what we're going to bring to the world. And that's where in my personal and professional life, I focus on this, because out there, whatever we're up to is secondary to bringing this online, if you will. When I mean by this, I mean the entire package. Me, the driver, and then my vehicle. They both have to be in sync, and they both have to be vital and healthy. There's nothing more simple than the power of our breath. Most of us take it for granted. We don't even pay attention to it. So we breathe anywhere from 20 to 30,000 times a day, but unconsciously. So as human beings, we have the double-edged sword aspect of being involuntary breathers or voluntary breathers, being unconscious breathers or conscious breathers. Okay. And most people completely unconscious breathers, as I was decades ago before I awoken and dove into this journey. And what I mean by that is, so listeners, right, when you're listening to this, just reflect in the last 3 to 5 minutes, how many breaths did you consciously choose? Meaning you went, time to breathe, and you took a breath. Most, if you're honest, 0. And that's only just 3 to 5 minutes. How about the last 24 hours? How about the last week? How about the last month? Most people, it's 0, which means we're being breathed. We're not breathing because it's automatic or involuntary. But for me, that's a survival breath. That's just a physiological breath that keeps us on the planet. Conscious breathing, choosing to volitionally, meaning intentionally, pull in life. So it's not called the breath of oxygen, right? In any discipline, in any spiritual scriptures, it's the breath of life. So when we breathe, yes, oxygen comes in, very important. Oxygen is energy. But there's something else called prana, or life force. So when we're taking in life, right, when you're breathing intentionally, you're revitalizing your body, but it also gets you to center and ground as well. So I could go on and on about that, but I'll pull up for just a moment in case you want to take it somewhere else. Otherwise, I can continue down the rails.
Yeah, but I have to interact because actually, yes, before this, because this is doing the interview is out of my comfort zone. And I mentioned on the other interviews, I mean, I could go on live. It's, I can just interact. But when I know that I have something structured, I get nervous. So yeah, minutes before I was doing the breathing that, I've learned from Roger Love, breathe in, and exhale. And I was doing a lot of that because it gets rid of that nervousness for myself, but also now relating to what you said, bringing that in, I want to know more. So continue, please.
Yay. Thank you. Sure. I'd love to. Yeah. So for me, when I first, as a average person on the planet, the average bear, same thing. I was breathing unconsciously and involuntarily, in, out, in, out, even as an athlete. So not until various experiences popped up in my life did I even start paying attention to breath. And then I really started to pay attention to, again, as my different concentric rings started to unfold, if you will.
Mhm.
The different disciplines in my life, studying philosophy and studying healing. And so things kept opening up, and including back into different forms of performance, athletic performance,
Mhm.
free diving and things of this nature.
Right.
So then back to the power of simplicity. What's the first thing all humans do when they come into the world? Breathe. What's the last thing we do when we leave?
Yeah.
Exhale. So
Mhm.
the first thing we do is inhale to show up on the planet as a baby. The last
Mhm.
thing when we do when we leave our bodies is exhale.
Mhm.
So life is really between an inhale and an exhale. And if you really want to take it back to the power of life is right now, if I,
Mhm.
but I don't take another one in, I'm over.
Right.
This life for me is done. And that's how one precious life is, but that's also how powerful the breath is. And then, being a healing practitioner and working with thousands, literally tens of thousands of people around the world from home. So I had 3 children, they were born at home.
Mhm.
And so watching the power of birth. And I've also worked with a lot of people who were in their transitional state, the dying process, and been there when they've taken their last breath.
Mhm.
And then both sides of that world and how powerful this is. Yes. So back to more practical things with breath, understanding that. So this word pranayama, I can't even remember if I've introduced that yet or not. So pranayama, it comes from the Sanskrit terminology, ancient Vedic traditions. Prana, life force; yama, the control of. Pranayama. Well, life force is in this discipline in ancient yoga is considered breath. Breath is the life force. Matter of fact, even in the Hawaiian traditions, aloha isn't really just hello. It is um, it is acknowledging the incoming breath. So it's acknowledging the intaking of spirit. So think about the word inspiration, right? To inspire, to pull in my spirit. So I'm really calling back my life force. So when this comes to empowerment and healing, when we give our power over, we're giving of our life force to somebody. Let's say it's a young kid and it's a bully. We give our life force or our energy to this person. They get stronger, we get weaker. In a relationship, uh, then if I'm intimidated in the relationship, be it a boss and an employee or a husband and wife or whatever that is, if I'm not standing my ground, I give my power away. So when I learn to consciously breathe, I can literally pull that power back because it's my power, it's my energy, it's me, it's the essence of me. So there's various forms of breath work and the use of breath for simply calming,
Mhm.
breath techniques to healing old wounds, right? So it covers so many different disciplines. And the reason I chose to address this topic for the Simplicity Summit, back to that, it's
Right.
ours. It's free, and it's simple, but it's profound simplicity.
Mhm.
If listeners, you choose to apply this in your life, which I highly recommend you do,
Mhm.
start paying attention to your breath because, let's see, you can take an object like this,
Okay.
which is it reads your pulse rate, it reads your heart rate, it reads respiratory rates, right?
Okay.
And by watching this, it proves that you can control your physiology, fancy word for the functioning of your organs,
Okay.
by controlling your breath. There's another tradition or a statement in yoga that says the mind masters the senses, all of my 5+ senses, but the breath masters the mind. So when I get control over my breath, I get control over my mind. Most people let their mind control them, hence all the stress. When you learn that your mind is a tool, don't be used by it, use it. But the fastest way to control it is to use your breath to get it back under sync.
Mhm.
And so this is a tool for educating people. So when I work with my clients who aren't used to that or don't really believe that breathing can do that, just watch somebody who's upset or panicky. They're breathing fast and shallow. Their
Mhm.
heart rate's going up. Their blood pressure's going up. Just to intervene and get them to slow down, diaphragmatically breathe, which I'll explain a little bit later if we have time, and then slow down the exhale, affects something we call the vagus nerve. It's part of there's 12 cranial nerves.
Okay.
Nerves that come out of your brain and go into your organs. The vagus is number 10. and it comes out of the midbrain or the pons, part of your brain stem, and it comes down and takes care of the heart and lungs and intestines. And it's part of the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part that allows us to slow down and chill out. The sympathetic, most people hear about, that's the fight or flight. Parasympathetic is the rest and digest. And we can activate that by slowly exhaling, because it activates the vagus nerve, which will then bring the heart rate down, bring the blood pressure down. And this will actually improve it within just a short period of time. So learning various ways to work with the breath, right? So understanding that pranayama is control over the breath, great. How to do that is what allows you then to have, for me, autonomy, right? I don't have to panic because I know I can get myself back into any state of balance and peace because I can tap into my breath. Not just me, Lou Corleto, but anybody that I work with. So therefore, any human being, as long as you've got life force inside of you, you can do this.
How cool is that? That's totally awesome. I just love it. Oh my gosh.
You and me both.
Oh my gosh. So, well, would you mind maybe showing us a little bit of how to do that?
Oh, no. These are secret techniques. I can't. Of course I will.
Okay.
Of course I will.
Okay.
And as I slide into that, I would like to share something else.
Okay.
Just to give some credence for your listeners, is so decades ago I started. So I'm a scuba diver and a free diver and a skydive instructor. I love exploring life and definitely the planet and being under the water. Right, it's 3/4 of our planet. And as humans, we start off as water babies first. People forget that. And so once a year, I take a small group of people and we go out into the Caribbean and we swim with wild dolphins. We do lots of personal development and healing work. And a big component of that is breath work that I work with them and teach with them. The reason we choose to work with free dolphins, I don't support or work with domesticated. That's not cool. Anyway, so free dolphins is because dolphins, or the cetacean family, whales, dolphins, they're pure conscious breathers. As I mentioned before, human beings are involuntary and voluntary. Most people stay involuntary, meaning we don't think about our breath. This is the reason that most people live either in the past or the future, and very few of us stay here and now, right? As Ram Dass, teaches, be here now. Breath is the way to bring us here now. When we're not paying attention to our breath, that's why we drift into the past or future. So we have anxiousness, right? So regret from the fears, depression, or we're in the future, so we're anxious. But neither one of them exists. This one's gone, this one hasn't shown up. Here is what's real. And so learning to use the breath brings us here and now, which is the only real moment in life.
I love it. Yeah.
And so the gift that the dolphins teach us is they're literally conscious breathers, meaning if they don't choose to take the next inhale, they die. And being with any sentient being who that's their walking state, they don't do it sometime. Like you teach as a high performance coach, you teach high performance, which is different than peak performance, right? We can do great things shortly, but not consistently. So that's peak performance. And then high performance is consistently. So being with any entity, in this case, a sentient being, a wild dolphin or whale, who has to choose to be present every second of their life is just incredible. And then that teaching to us is huge. So back to the teaching, what can we do? First, remember, nose is for breathing, mouth is for eating. That's a simple thing. Most people mouth breathe and they chest breathe. The torso is from the shoulders to the waist. I don't think you can see my waist right now, but shoulders to the waist is what's called torso. Cut right through the middle at the bottom of your rib cage is the most important muscle actually in your life, even more so than your heart, really. And that's the breathing muscle, or called the diaphragm. Diaphragm is Greek to mean separate. So it separates our torso, because here up is heart and lungs. Here down are the rest of your organs, kidneys and intestines. So the breathing muscle, the diaphragm, is when we inhale. Most people think it's the other way around, but when you inhale, the diaphragm actually goes down and acts like a plunger to pull air in. When we exhale, the diaphragm goes up and pushes air out. So when I breathe, the diaphragm goes down. When I exhale, diaphragm goes up. If you watch babies who haven't been traumatized, Babies are what we call belly breathers. Nothing else in their body moves. Their chest doesn't move. Just their abdomen goes in and out because they're still breathing diaphragmatically.
Yeah.
Most people, like I'm sure obviously Roger would have taught you this, right? One of your guest speakers,
Yeah.
Roger Love, one of the best vocal coaches in the world, hence breathing in order to sing or speak appropriately. So he teaches diaphragmatic breathing. And most people have tension in the belly, so we can't get the air in, right? As he calls it, the gas pedal. And so we're chest breathing, which is one, it's inefficient breathing. It looks bigger because the chest moves. So it looks like I'm getting more, but I'm actually not, because the gas exchange where oxygen and carbon dioxide switch. So when I breathe in, taking in oxygen. When I exhale, I'm releasing carbon dioxide. But if I'm only breathing in my chest, I'm actually superficially breathing, and I'm not exchanging all of this junk and toxicity. When I learn to breathe deeper, I'm getting to the lower lobes of my lung where the gas exchange actually occurs. And I'm getting more oxygen to my tissues, to my blood, to vitalize me. And then I'm also getting more of the carbon dioxide and other junk, if you will, out. So people think when they think of like detoxing the body, they think of the bowels and the kidneys and the skin. But we breathe 20 to 30,000 times a day. It's actually one of your greatest forms of detoxification and cleansing the body, only if you're breathing deep. But if you're breathing shallow, you're not getting to it. So a technique, nose, and think about your belly coming out. So breathe in the nose, and belly comes out, and then belly comes in. And you can exhale out mouth or nose. That's totally up to you.
Right.
But in the nose, out mouth or belly.
Okay.
So some techniques. So that's what's called diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragm comes down, abdomen comes out, and then they reverse. So just having people do that will change their life because they stop chest breathing, which is inefficient. And then next level, if you're watching either yourself look in a mirror or friends or relatives, if you see their shoulders lift, they're really struggling because that's using what we call accessory muscles. So if I breathe and then go, and I'm lifting up in here from the collarbones or neck muscles, I'm struggling to get air in. If you watch people that have respiratory challenges, distresses, you're going to see that motion because they're struggling to get air in and out. And they're continuing to struggle because they're breathing inappropriately. Simply teaching them how to breathe right will reduce a lot of their stress and bring them back into health and balance and remove even some of the conditions that they have.
Wow, that is awesome. That's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for allowing me to share.
Oh, I love it. And looks like our time is so fast. This is crazy. Could you tell us just a little bit about this lovely book that you have?
So very simple to read, a little more challenging to implement into your life. This came about as if what were the principles that I was going to give to somebody in order to apply to their life to change the quality of their life. So for me personally, by living the principles in this book, I haven't spent a penny on medical care in over 30 years, not a penny. And I'm a skydiver and a free diver and a firewalk instructor. I mean, I do a lot of things to challenge myself and haven't spent a penny in medical care because I don't get ill, I don't get sick because I have, matter of fact, I don't even carry health insurance, meaning I don't pay money into that model because I have health assurance. It's a whole different level of living that I've been doing so for coming up on 55 years. And in the last 30, when I've awoken to all these truths that I live and teach, haven't spent any of that. So that's the synopsis in the book.
Well, thank you so much. We are just so fortunate to have you on today. I enjoyed this totally, and I'm sure the viewers are going to just enjoy every second of it. You've taught me so many things today, and I just appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I loved every minute of it, and thank you so much, Lou. I can't even express the words that I appreciate so much.
Lynn, it's an honor and a privilege to be here, to be of service. And in closing, folks, just remember, your breath is yours and it's free. Just start accessing it and it will change your life, right? So the power of breath to change your life. And one last closing tip, in order to really calm your system down, just do a ratio of at least 1 to 2, meaning if I breathe in for 4 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 8. So whatever that ratio is, if I breathe in 5, exhale 10, and that'll really get your system to calm down and you can stay present and focused. And on that note, abundant blessings. And
Thank you so
for all the
much.
entrepreneurs, step into your courage and express your greatness to the world. The world needs it. So thank you, Lynn. Blessings.
And thank you, Lou, too. Thank you very much. My pleasure. All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope this brought out your passions, ignited you, and inspired you to restart and reclaim your life. Please subscribe to my podcast and feel free to leave a rating and a review. Until the next episode of Seriously Uncork Yourself, you can check out more information at lynnkuhn.com. That's Lynn, L-Y-N-N, Kuhn, K-U-H-N.com. Be sure to tune in for my next episode. Sending you all peace and love until our next time together. Seriously Uncork Yourself.